Welcome back to the channel. You may remember this Derby snowman from previous video where I showed I had to take a patch off of here and one off over here, about that big, that I wasn't sure what they had used, but I thought it was probably the thermoplastic pellets, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is because there's still some little bit left on the edge here. And what I'm going to do with this one, I patched his hand somewhat using thermoplastic pellets, but I'm going to go back over that later using this. This is my Dremel tool that I bought. It's got this wire brush attachment for it, and I'm going to run it over these areas that have turned brown, see if it'll just kind of brush them off, and hopefully that'll work. What I've been doing today is cutting this, all of the most, not quite all of it, but I got about 95% of the area that was patched before. I think some of this was still part of the old hole, but it's pretty solid. There's a couple of cracks that I can see underneath where the old plastic was. Looks like right there is one. But what I did was cut out the old part, except, well, I cut it out this side, here, and here, and then I cut a straight line across there using this cutting disc on my Dremel, because I figured if it's long, straight lines, then it'll be easier to patch. Because what I'm going to do is I've got another one of these snowmen that about the bottom half has a big hole in it, and it's gotten real brittle. But his hat is good, and this hand is good. Everything basically from the waist up is still good. But I'm going to get a piece of paper or something and kind of draw a rough outline of this patch, of this hole. And then I'm going to trace it onto the other snowman and cut it out the same area. So it'll already have the contour in it. And it'll have this little line right here where this part of the hat is. And then I'll trim it down to where it'll be just maybe a 1/16 of an inch bigger than the actual hole. And then I'll take my soldering iron and weld it all the way around, and it should look pretty good. But what I've been doing on here today, after I cut that out, I've been going over this area because a lot of it had turned brown back before I started messing with it. So I've been kind of scraping the old plastic off, not the plastic from the blow mold, but the plastic from the patch, the thermoplastic pellets. You can see there's still some here, and I don't know if you can see it in the picture or not, but you can tell there's still a layer. All this area where this blackened stuff is, you can tell there's still a thin layer of the old plastic on top of it. So I'm going to use that wire brush and try and clean this off, or at least get rid of the blackish, brownish areas. I've already done it over here. There was a lot of it that was brown, and I got it off with that wire brush attachment. You can see right there, you can see there's still some of the patch still on there, but I'm going to leave that on there. I'm not going to mess with it because it's still white. And one thing I figured out over here is when you put the thermoplastic pellet stuff over the hole and over the edge of it, if the plastic that is already there from the mold, if any of that is discolored, then when you light it up, it will show through this. I haven't lit this one up to see how his hand is going to look, but I'll do that in just a minute just to show you. Because this layer of the thermoplastic stuff, it's less than 1/8 of an inch thick. It looks like it's pretty thick right there, but it's not that thick. And also what I did, I took several pieces, because you have to work with it pretty fast before it starts hardening up. And I just like use one piece to go over here, and then another piece over here, and then another little bit of it here. And then I gradually worked it out, and I used a hair dryer to heat it up when it got too cold and started getting hard. I used a hair dryer to heat it up again to where I could smooth it out, spread it out some, and I went all the way to around the edge of the hand so that it wouldn't stick out so much. And then once I got it close to the edge, I took the soldering iron, and you can actually melt this with the soldering iron, but you have to be really, really quick, because this stuff melts faster than this plastic will. So you have to be really constantly moving. But anyway, I went around the edge and kind of smoothed it out, because if you just use the pellet glob or whatever you want to call it, you'll have a very noticeable line, because this stuff, no matter if you use your fingers or whatever, it won't smooth out completely. So I took the soldering iron and kind of smoothed out the edge of it all the way around, and then for a little extra strength, I went around the whole outside of it with a small layer of epoxy. You can see it, the shiny part around here, that's epoxy. And the brownish areas is where I was kind of smoothing it out with the soldering iron. And because even when it's hot and clear and you're working it, once it starts cooling, sometimes it will kind of, I'm not sure what the word is, but it'll kind of shrink. And like right here, there was a really thin spot, because the plastic, as it hardened, it kind of withdrew into the other areas around it. And so I had to heat it up again with the edge of the soldering iron and kind of push some of the plastic to fill that in some. And but all this area, this brownish stuff, is where I had to use the soldering iron tip to try and smooth out different spots. And it's not perfectly smooth now, but it looks a lot better than it did. And this is all I'm gonna paint the mittens just to kind of cover this up a little bit. And then once I get the hat patched, I'm gonna paint the hat red again, like it originally was. And I'll probably strip the blue and the green off, since it's not in very good shape. And I'll repaint the walking stick and the scarf. I'll just repaint everything on it that's painted, even the earmuffs. But that's where I'm at right now with this one. I'm just taking the wire brush on here, and I'll show you what I'm doing. It's just a real small wire brush. I'm just taking the edge of it and very lightly going across here. It takes a little bit of the patch plastic off, and it'll take the black stuff off also. See, it's getting to the edge of the old patch plastic right here, so it's kind of sticking up a little bit right in here. I'm going to slow it down a little bit to about 12. See if that's any easier to do. kind of hard to do because this thing is spinning this way clockwise if you're looking at it from this side, so it tries to pull it to the right, and this thing rocks back and forth, so you have to try and hold them both. Anyway, I'm going to keep doing that on here. I'll probably wind up having to take all of the plastic patch material off to get rid of all of that. But right now I'm going to come over here and see how it's going to work on the hand, see if it's going to take that stuff off. I don't know if it will or not. This is the first time I've used the thermoplastic pellets, so that's why it's not perfectly smooth. Took some of it off. Turn it back up a little bit. Okay, it looks like you got most of it off. Looks a lot better than it did. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to keep doing that over here. One thing I'll say, if you use this or any attachment with the Dremel, make sure you're wearing some kind of safety glasses, because I've got powder, I don't know if you can see it, all over my hands and arms, my shirt, and I can feel it hitting me in the face. But luckily I wear glasses, so I didn't get any in my eyes. But it's just like real fine sand, so it would not be pleasant to get in your eyes. But anyway, I will come back with part 2 in the next few days when I trace the patch over this hole on a piece of paper, and then when I get ready to cut it out of that other one, I'll show a video and then show how I trim it down to fit. And then depending on the length of it, I may have to make a third one to show when I actually weld it and put it in place. And then later this year, when the weather gets decent, I will start painting. I've got about a dozen to paint already. This one will go in the line. But thanks for watching. If you learned something, then click that like button down there at the bottom, and subscribe if you want to get notified whenever I post another video. Thanks.